have also weighed in on the Babes Wodumo incident. Among them, the KZN chapter of the hashtag the Total Shutdown. The organization has called for the immediate arrest of Mampintsha, saying a crime has been committed and police must act now. Let me bring in the convener of the KZN chapter of the hashtag the Total Shutdown, Beverley Motlhabani. Beverley, thank you very much indeed for your time. This alleged assault, another wake-up call, I guess, for South Africans.
Thank you for having me, and it really is a great pleasure to be talking to you today. It really is very, very sad to see that we are so much into our democracy and our understanding of human rights and respect for human life in particular, and for the respect of women. But we're still having situations like these. Indeed, that's very, very sad.
I mean, we had this presidential summit against gender-based violence last year. What sort of progress has been made since then, do you think?
We came into the summit itself, as you mentioned, the presidential summit, with 24 demands, and one of them was really to have that summit. So for us, it was victory number one that we had the summit in the first place. And some of our demands are that we need to have service that comes from the state. That is an obligation of the state around gender-based violence, particularly around hospitals and the police and the justice system. And so far, what we're talking about now is that there is talk of an establishment of a council. The process has already begun. We also had a demand about funding efforts and programs and projects around responses to gender-based violence. That also seems to be beginning to take shape. And this we are seeing in the form of, if you listen to the State of the Nation address, for instance, the President articulated that all of those measures would now be taking shape going into the rest of this year. One of the things we also wanted to have was to have, a cohesive approach to services that have to do with gender-based violence in schools, in hospitals, in civil society itself, actually, and the support that government should be giving to civil society, because, as you know, resource is a very big challenge for the civil society, particularly when it comes to dealing with issues around gender-based violence.
Beverley, we asking our viewers this morning as part of our poll question, what would they do if they witnessed an assault on a woman? What steps can be taken? And we want our viewers to give us a call or tweet us at @theagenda_SABC. But I guess getting to the root of the problem is important. How do we stop what seems to be this pernicious scourge of sexual and gender-based violence?
There are many ways that we can respond to this, but I think for us, we advise and we think and we promote that you actually need to understand that it's not just one thing. It actually is a number of issues that present themselves in the one act. So a person that you see in a video, like we did see, that raises a hand on the woman, if you trace back and look at other aspects in the environment, in their lives, you will see that there are some aspects of it that have actually now resulted in this. So what should people do? One, do not ever keep quiet. Break the silence. Speak to somebody about it, whether it may be just somebody you trust, or it may be somebody in the law, or somebody from an organization that you know would be assisting, but do not ever keep quiet. Number two, do not stay in a situation that is untenable like that. Is it easy? No. Is it going to be quick? No. Because once again, there are all sorts of aspects to it, whether it would be children or it would be support that the person will tell you they're getting from their abuser. At the end of the day, though, it cannot be that your life would be equated to a plate of food. Would you rather stay because you're getting a plate of food and die in the end? Or would you rather get away and later on, when you're outside, be able to still get the plate of food because you will get the support? You will get the support. Then sit there and die. We see in the social media, for instance, there are videos that circulate. For instance, there's one about a tiny little toddler who was being disciplined by the grandmother, and the child goes and grabs a knife and chases after the grandmother. This is a toddler. He's not even 3 yet. Now, that will show you, for instance, that the child must have seen it somewhere. So this is the environment this child is living in, and that's the only thing that he's learned so far, to respond to a woman that is older one and disciplining him. You see videos of children in schools that are rebellious, basically, is what we see. But if we were to look deeply under the layers over there, we would see that there are other aspects to it. So what else can people do in the house, at home, in your own life, with the relationships with the little ones, with the younger ones? Please always be aware children are watching. We have to act in a manner that children can emulate and emulate proper behavior. We have to talk, because we don't talk, we do not ever talk about issues. We don't talk about sex. We don't talk about any matter that we see as taboo. And when we have to now deal with the presentation of those issues, which comes out as violence, we don't know how to deal with it. So these are the things that for us are very important that we must do. And lastly, also not lastly, but one of the most important things, is for women themselves to get together and support each other. You know, we have this practice, particularly in marriages, where you hear when a woman goes home to say, this is the situation I'm living in, and they are told, take it out. You're not the only person. It's happened to all of us. We've all come out of it. It makes you a better woman. It doesn't. The truth is, it doesn't. Now, for us, we don't want to be looking at death statistics. We want to be looking at victory statistics where we come out of the ashes of all of that abuse, is what we say.
Beverley, I want to just dig a little deeper with regards to the issues of patriarchy. Talk to us about the gender dynamics and the power relations, and why violence against women, although widespread, is underreported.
Violence is largely unreported for a number of reasons. One, the woman usually feels shame. Okay? Because once again, you have a situation where you are taught you have no voice, you have no power, you are further down the food chain, so to speak. And this world around you and the general world is ruled by men. So you will be quiet, you will be obedient, and you will never ever raise your voice or even your eyes to look at a man or a person in authority straight in the eye. So the shame comes in. I have to now report I can't. Two, the shame that you are told you are bringing to the family when you report. Three, once again, the power relations in terms of socioeconomics. Women, although, yes, there are many strides that are being made in terms of particularly empowerment of women, but in the main, the women are still the ones dependent on the man for sustenance, for maintenance, for living, basically. And so once again, the woman is putting that on a scale and saying, I cannot, because if I do, then I'm going to lose out on this. But here's the other thing, though. We now also have an emerging culture of people that are said to be using others, particularly with sex. When I go as a woman to apply for a job, instead of just going through a regular interview and just the interview, I now have to go through another special interview which involves sex and sexual favors. And you know what? It creates a situation where now there's a development of a little subculture we call the at least culture. So a woman says, oh, well, you know, I slept with him, I was instructed to sleep with him, but at least I got the job. At least he didn't beat me up. At least. So that at least further entrenches those unequal power relations and reinforces the power of the man over the woman. Even though some women tend to believe, no, I'm exerting my power because I went and slept with him. The truth of the matter is the mind is so affected so deeply that we don't even see it when we are in it. We don't see it at all. So what are we saying about patriarchy? One line. It has to end.
Yeah.
Whose responsibility is it? It's all of us.
Beverley, is part of the solution, should we look at how we raise and socialize, especially our male children?
We always have to look at that. And you see, one of the things that unfortunately, some of us tend to think is when you say gender-based violence, it only has to do with women. It's a women's issue. When you say gender issues, they say it's a women's issue. When you say feminism, it's a women's issue. It's actually not. Men and boys are as much the problem as they are part of the solution. We have to strike an equilibrium. One, not only in the way we raise our boy children, also in the way we raise our girl children. You have got to let them understand that nobody is more than them. They are not less than anybody. They are as good and as much as any other person around them. So yes, you are quite right. It questions our culture. It questions the traditional practices that we are practicing today, even as the world changes around us. There are certain things we want to clamor onto. And as the whole world changes, we want to just stay static with them. And those have got to change. Do we have laws? We have laws in this country. And the laws we have are very good. But in terms of practicalizing them, they are not so good. When you still hear the police saying to you, when you report a case, why don't you go back and discuss? You know, discuss what when I'm telling you I'm in danger? And they actually go and shake hands with the guy and say, no, deal with this. We are guys. We can do. It shows you right there. Those little traditional things that we do, it's little cultures and subcultures we develop. They also need to be aborted immediately. So yes, raising the children, discipline at home, the way we live at home, the values we want to instill in the children. And I'm not even beginning to speak about the church, for instance, because you often hear if we go back to the church, it will solve all the issues. That is not true, because we all know, and we all should know, some of the offenses, the sexual offenses that come out of the churches themselves. I don't need to be talking about the Carol situation that we are seeing unfolding on TV already, do I?
Yeah, there's, look, the issues with regards to clergy and sexual offences. I know that's being addressed, was addressed at the Vatican recently, where the Pope Francis actually called for the summit with regards to tackling this issue. So, you know, Beverley, the process of systematic change is difficult, and no doubt that a sustained effort needs to be in place in order to get us over the line. This is indeed a complex issue. But thank you very much indeed for your time. Beverley Motlhabani is the convener of the KZN chapter of the hashtag, the Total Shutdown. Beverley Motlhabani, thank you very much.